Hello, my name is Omar Ampersad. It's July 14th, Saturday, at 6:03 p.m. in Toronto. So I'm going to talk about the harassment I'm experiencing in the workplace and in the public spaces as well. And I tweeted quite a few tweets in the last few days, and those were all mine. Just now, I tweeted a case against the Toronto police and my suspicions about the Toronto police trafficking me. Um, I'm afraid of the Toronto police. I am sure that not all of them are dirty, but um, you know, there's always a chance that I could be picked up anytime and taken in because I'm being targeted. I am a target. My name is on a list, and I'm targeted. And part of that targeting program is to have me criminalized in the police database. And I'm afraid that, one day a cop will show up at my door and pick me up and nobody will ever see me again. It's happened before. The tweets that I posted just now is about a case that I have against the Toronto police that I intend to take to court. And I'm talking about this now because I really don't want to be picked up by the Toronto police and taken away and drugged based on the file that they have about me in a database and based on monitors that's working with them, that's in my environment, lying about me, and who's actually trying to get me killed because I'm exposing this trafficking ring that's going on. As I said before, not all the cops are taking part in this. The cops who are working with the people in this building are. So let me start at the top. I was going to UFT, and like Rohini Besasar, I was pursuing my degree, and I was continuously being railroaded. Every time a exam came up, I would get sick suddenly. I started getting heart palpitations after I moved into this building. Um, and uh, and there seemed to be things happening at each step of my progression. Every time I tried to take a course, every time I tried to finish my CGA or my CMA, I always got sick. I ended up in the hospital. Someone would die. I would fall. Something would happen to put blocks in my way. Studying this program for so many years, I've come to understand that there are gangs who obviously infiltrated the police force and are working with the cops to recruit, to select and recruit kids. I was only 20 at the time when I believe I was selected, and even probably younger, to be put in this program to be sold and to be experimented on. So I suspect this is exactly what happened to Rohini Besasar. Um, I didn't come from a broken home, but there was a lot of stress in the house because when I came here, because we were new immigrants and starting a new life, and of course there's a lot of pressures, financial and so on. So it made me, because I was young, I didn't know anything at the time, I was very naive. It made me vulnerable to this sort of targeting. And I believe that there are people who are working in the system, in the school system, to pick kids who they think they can program in a certain way to sell, basically. So this is what This is what I think happened in my case. Actually, I know happened in my case. Thinking back now to all the things that happened in my life, um, and I believe in a lot of other kids' lives as well. The criminals who do the selection looks for people, kids, who are coming from backgrounds that has little support, coming from a background that makes teaches them to trust without question. And this is a very, very important point here. I come from an Indian background, a West Indian background, but my roots are Indian, Hindu. My mother was a devout Hindu and very spiritual. And we were taught in school that started off in the English system to obey adults and not to question, not to question. This makes kids very vulnerable. They make them naive in the sense that they could be taken advantage of without questioning, and they wouldn't question because they're taught to believe adults and trust them. So this is what happened in my case, and of course you're taken advantage of. So I believe this happened actually in the school system as well in my case. So there are parallels between the selection of me and Rohini Besasar, exactly the same thing. She's Guyanese, small in stature, very good-looking woman, very, 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 very bright. And she, I suspect, was selected at a very young age to be put into this program and to be worked on as an as a unwitting experimentee, number one, and number two, to be trafficked as part of the program. So to be targeted, in other words, her name was on a list and she didn't realize it. Because she was defiant and she went against her family's wishes, moved out, lived with a boyfriend from a very coming from a very conservative Hindu home. This is very, very drastic, and she would have been seen with displeasure. Her parents probably saw her as a prostitute, as a you know whatever, very promiscuous and so on. So they probably were very very angry, and somebody infiltrated. I'm suspecting infiltrated the family, and the family backed up the program. In other words, sold her into the program. No support. And this is exactly what happened in my case. Exactly what happened in my case. I defied my brother and his wife, and I came and I went through my life and I educated myself. I bought myself my house. I bought my unit, my condominium. I traveled. I bought my cars and so on. But in my brother, who's now deceased, and his wife's eyes, I was not married. So I defied. I went against these traditional belief systems. And I was seen as a prostitute no matter what. If I had a boyfriend, I was seen as a prostitute. A boyfriend, no marriage, a prostitute automatically. I'm not promiscuous because this is not the way I grew up, as was Rohini Besasar. She was living with one boyfriend. And according to the story about her in the news, in the articles that I read, she was harassed and bullied in the workplace. She was given junior jobs when she could do senior jobs. She was she suspected that there was a conspiracy against her. Now, being gang stalked is a conspiracy. Being in a program is a conspiracy. There's a conspiracy to bring the person down. That's a conspiracy. Now, in my case, obviously, I'm being flagged, and I'm being monitored as a result of being flagged. And the monitoring is being subcontracted. And I've been talking about being gerbiled. So gerbling is actually being trained using remote technology to sell and to customize you to the client and then sell you physically after being trained remotely via gerbling, which is remote rape, really. I'm suspecting this is exactly what was going on with Rahini Busasar. I'm suspecting this is why she was seen with multiple men in a downtown location, and they were different men, because she was being remotely accessed and gerbiled and customized to these men who showed up around her, who happened to be older men with money, most likely. So they put her in a compromised situation, and they put her in a position where she needed money. Then these men showed up in her life and bought her food and bought her clothes or whatever they bought her, and was seen with her and made her look like she was a prostitute. She was not a prostitute. Just like me, I'm not a prostitute. However, I'm being trafficked remotely, and and I'm being flagged continuously and driven out of the workplace because I'm being harassed in the workplace based on the reports that's being submitted about me by police informants. Because the police, I'm strongly suspecting, as I said in my tweets, are very much a part of this trafficking ring. They provide the cover and they select the clients as well. This would explain the comment by one of my employers, or the managers in one of my employers' workplace. Um, Let me say that again. The manager who hired me in one of the companies I worked for, he said to me that the cops sent me there. This was after I was charged for stalking two Muslim women with their faces covered who admitted, number one, we did not know each other. Number two, I was afraid of them. Why would I stalk somebody who I'm afraid of? And I couldn't ID them, so I couldn't follow them anywhere. It was impossible to follow them since I didn't know who they were and I couldn't ID them. So any meetings would have been purely coincidental, and yet I was charged. So I'm being targeted by the cops who actually did that because the cops knew I was a target. The cops knew I was in the program. The cops knew that the program called for me to be criminalized, just like Rohini Besasar got criminalized. Unfortunately for her, she did something that she can't come back from. Killing somebody is something you don't come back from, unfortunately. In other words, she got disposed of by being tormented, I'm suspecting by remote technologies, by being harassed, by being put in such a really, really bad situation financially, emotionally, in every which way possible, and drove her to the edge to make her commit this. As she said in her own words, it wasn't her. Somebody made her do it. Well, she was mind controlled to do it, basically, by all these other factors working on her, I'm suspecting, and destroyed her, basically, and destroyed the victim as well, who got killed. An innocent life was taken for whatever reason. Well, maybe not so innocent. I'm just saying. Why was she there in the first place? Maybe there was something more. And I said this in my tweets. This lady, if she was, excuse me, Rohini Besasar is a target, then she's being stalked. She's being gang stalked. She's being controlled by this intimidation and fear that comes out of being gang stalked. It's a control mechanism, like I'm being, or they're trying to, but I'm speaking out as I am. So, because I actually am afraid of being killed, either by a laser or by the cops coming up to me and pulling me in and drugging me and or keeping me in custody long enough for me to get a heart attack, basically. That'd be disposing of me. Um, so as Rohini Besasa was disposed of, this is something she will not come back from. Her life is over, basically. Killing somebody is something, as I said, this is not something I would ever, 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 ever do. But my background, lucky for me, um, I was never, even though my life in Canada started off in a very stressful situation, well, challenging situation. I didn't grow up in Canada up to the age of 16, almost going on 17. And I had a really, really good foundation in my life. So there is no way that I'm going to commit something violent or something that goes against my my spiritual beliefs. And I have a very strong spiritual background. So this is what is saving me right now, and this is what is giving me the strength to speak up as I am. So other kids don't get victimized like myself and Rohini Besasar, people who are new immigrants, refugees, poor kids. It doesn't matter what color you are. It really doesn't matter what color you are. These rings, they put in their requests for what they want in their victims. You want small, you want Indian, you want East Indian, you want white, you want black, you want purple, short, kids, pedophiles want somebody who is small and look like a child, naive. And these people put in orders, and the scouts go out and select people and train them, like I believe is going on right here. I'm doing this because I'm afraid for my life, basically. This is why I'm speaking out, because I know the criminals who are running this ring is providing the police enough information to grab me and take me in, to charge me with a charge that will not stand up in court, like solicitation. I'm not soliciting anyone in the workplace, but I keep hearing remarks that I am, or I'm stealing. Tea bags, I heard. Like, why on earth would I steal a tea bag when I have them at home? Doesn't make sense. It's little things like this, but just to put a charge through against me and put me through the process to cause stress in my life. This is what this is going on here. So I'm doing this because I'm afraid. I'm petrified, actually, of the cops showing up at my door and pulling me out. And the other part of this, of course, is being hit with lasers by people who have the lasers, criminals who are trying to control your victims from talking like I'm doing with lasers, basically. Lasers, microwaves, tasers. If you're walking the street, they may taser you. Ultrasonic technology hitting you with sound bullets. All these things could be used because they're criminals. Of course, criminals are going to use weapons. I am afraid. And I am being harassed in the workplace as well. And trafficked, most likely. Talk to you another time.